This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so good morning, and we're on page 1024 in our Stone Chumashim, and that is Parshat Shoftim, Judges. And it really is fascinating that so much of the legal world today and principles of law and justice are based upon not just the Torah, but also our rabbinic law that follows afterwards also. But the whole idea of judgment being blind and not showing deference to the rich and powerful, nor showing deference to the poor and vulnerable. Right? The Gemara discusses that Rashi brings on one of the psukim, that a judge might feel, look, here's a wealthy person and here's a poor person. I'm going around collecting money for this person. I'm going to be knocking on the door of this wealthy person tomorrow night to ask him to help this person who's in dire financial need. Let me just rule in favor of the poor person. And that way, I don't have to go around collecting the net tomorrow night. The money's going to go to him anyhow, right? And let it be done in a dignified manner. It sounds very, very generous, very, very noble. Absolutely not. Because once you start to distort, then there is no end to the distortions that will follow. So on page 1024, we're, of course, in Devarim, chapter 16, verse 18, Shoftim v'shotrim titain lecha b'chol sha'arecha. Judges, officers, you have to appoint for you b'chol sha'arecha, in all of the gates. Asher Hashem Elokecha, that Hashem your God notain lecha, is giving to you lishvatecha, to your tribes. V'shaftu et ha'am mishpat tzedek. They must judge. Either they must or they will judge. We'll soon see the ways of looking at this. The nation with a mishpat tzedek, with righteous judgment. Lo tate mishpat. Do not tilt your judgment. Lo takir panim. Do not show any, don't respect someone's presence. Literally, don't recognize someone's face. And Rashi explains this is even at the time of, it's not talking about just don't rule in favor of someone that's dear to you, but even at the time when they are making their claims, make sure you're treating both of them in a similar manner. If you're showing deference or respect or kindness to one more than the other, then the other one is going to clam up. He will not have the presence of mind to properly represent himself. V'lo tikach shocha. Do not accept any bribery, even if I already know how I'm going to rule over here. I'm going to rule in favor of this guy, right? He wants to give me a bribe. Why not? Right? No. Ki hashochad ya'aver einei chachamim. Bribery will blind the eyes of the wise. V'salef, and it will make crooked divrei tzadikim. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Righteousness, righteousness you shall pursue. Very, very famous verse. Laman tichyen, or that you will live, v'yarashta et haaretz, and you will inherit the land that Hashem your God is giving to you. So a number of things on this. First of all, shoftim v'shotrim titain lecha b'chol sha'arecha. Lecha is in the singular. This is not talking to an individual. This is talking to the nation. So it should say titain lachem. What's titain lecha? And there are a number of approaches. The Kli Yakar. Well, who does the appointing of? And this is so pertinent in our world today, where the president appoints the Supreme Court judges, and what's the turmoil in Israel now over who should be appointing these judges. right? The whole judicial reform issue that's going on over there. So who appoints the Shoftim and the Shotrim? Those in power. So it's letting you know you have to appoint people who will be judges and officers for you, over you, that they will be in a position of power over you. Don't appoint those who will feel they have to grovel to you in thanks for your having appointed them, but titain lecha, they have to be over you. Whatever they rule, that overpowers your own sense of control and power. And then V'shavtu ta'am mishpat tzedek. If you will appoint people who will be honest and find judgment even over you, then the result will be V'shavtu ta'am mishpat tzedek. Then they will judge the nation in a righteous manner, in a correct manner. But if it's going to get skewed when it comes to you, then once they start to contort themselves, there's no end to the contortions because they have to have this appearance of being just. And if they twisted it over here, then how can I rule correctly over there? I've got to twist there. And you keep contorting yourself until you are completely and absolutely out of shape. Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning, Linda. So we're on page 1024, Parsha Shoftim, Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuk. We just did 18 through 20.
Rabbi, can I ask something before
Yes.
we move on? Since every word is relevant, so the fact that there's righteousness, is there a reason?
Yes. So, right. So Jenny asked, Amen. Jenny asked, why does it say tzedek, tirdof? Every word in the Torah is gold. So why does it say it? Why does it say twice, tzedek, tirdof? I have an explanation over here.
Oh, I see it. Yes.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so over here on the notes, it brings from Rav Bunim of Pesischa, one should pursue righteousness through righteousness. Meaning, tzedek, you should be righteous in the righteousness that you pursue. It is not enough to seek righteousness. It must be done through honest means. The Torah does not condone the pursuit of a holy end through improper means. Okay? The end, don't be sorry. Thank you for bringing it up. That was on my notes over here. The end does not justify the means. Okay? And if getting towards a proper end will only be through improper means, then that is not the path that you should take.
So the word tzedek incorporates all those different.
Tzedek tirdof. You have to be righteous in your pursuit of righteousness.
Okay, I got it.
Tzedek tirdof.
Yeah.
Tzedek tirdof, pursue righteousness. Yes, but be tzedek, be righteous in your manner of pursuit of righteousness. Right? And that is very powerful. The Shlah HaKodesh, well, Shoftim v'Shotrim. So Shoftim are the judges. Who are the Shotrim? And we will return to that soon. But who are the Shotrim? The officers. Rashi explains, Harodin et ha'am, those who enforce with the nation the commands, right? That if they are the enforcers of the laws, of the rulings of the judges. Shoftim v'shotrim titain lecha. The Shlah HaKodesh says lecha is in the singular. We have to have shoftim v'shotrim by all of our gates. We personally, what are our gates? Our eyes are our gates. Our ears are our gates. Our mouth. Whoa. Whoa.
Hard one.
Our mouth is our gate. And we have to personally, of course, the Torah is talking about in a general sense. But by saying lecha in the singular, it's also letting us know that we have to be the judges and the enforcers over our gates. What we see, what we choose to look at, what we choose to listen to, what we choose to say, it has to be judged. We have to weigh it so carefully. As I always say, before you say it, you own it. After you say it, it owns you. Yes.
So how come if those are our gates, our mouth, our ears, our eyes,
Yeah.
it doesn't say anything. I mean, not our brain, because sometimes, like,
Yes. That's where the Shoftim,
okay,
that's where the judges come.
okay,
And the Shotrim and the enforcers, meaning we have to use that brain of ours to decide what could be said, what could not, what should not be said, how should it be said, when should it be said, right? And what should I, as a parent or as a teacher, right? Sometimes we choose not to see something, right? If we see it, we have to react. Better, right? In class. I had very selective hearing. I would decide what I wanted to hear, what I don't want to hear. Now, or on a broader scale, if there's a conversation that I know is going towards in a bad direction, lashon hara, motzi shemra, which is for lashon hara is true derogatory information. It's not lashon hara, Rabbi, because it's true. Actually, that's what defines it as lashon hara, right? If it's not true, then it's not lashon hara. Then it's motzi shemra. It is creating this bad name. So we have to decide, what do I want to stick around to listen to? What do I want to, or coming back to Esther's brain, what do I want to accept as true? I hear something, I can't accept it as true. I might have to be concerned. That was the famous story of Gedaliah ben Achikam. We have the fast of Gedaliah after Rosh Hashanah. He was warned and he completely disregarded the warning. He should have taken precautions, not taking it as truth, but taking it as precautions. A person is warned about a potential business partner, about a potential shidduch. We have to take it seriously. We have to be careful, not accept it as truth. So there's so much that goes on. So that is the Shoftim, the judges by our gates. What are the Shotrim? What are the officers by our gates?
What we restrict ourselves from doing, or we don't choose to follow that path.
Yes, excellent. Oh, Cheryl, coming in from the East Coast. Wow.
Yeah,
From
West Coast.
Oregon. Oh, okay. Welcome, Cheryl. Good to have you with us. We miss you in person, but good to have you with us over here. Right? So we're discussing the beginning of Shoftim, page 1024, in our Stone Chumashim, that it says in the singular, judges and officers you shall place. So we spoke about your gates, the things that you, our eyes, ears, mouth, those are our gates, and how careful we need to be with those. So we mentioned that we have the Shoftim, we have to judge what should be going in and out of these gates. We also need to be the shoter, the officer, the enforcer. Why? One of the most famous expressions, which is mockingly said, is "Nicht Shabbos gerecht," which means in Yiddish, I should not be saying this on Shabbos.
Yeah.
And it's always followed by the word aber, but Nish Shabbos correct, aber I shouldn't be saying this on Shabbos, but right. So that's a case where the judgment, the shofet, the judgment has been issued, but we decide anyhow. I'm going to do it. right? And invariably, that's where I think most of us are at, right? Right?
Yes.
We basically know what's right
Yes.
and wrong,
Definitely.
but then we decide I'm going to suspend this.
Yeah.
Boker Tov, Aaron Halevi. I'm sorry, I should have sent a text. Come,
It's
right?
a sort of a gray area, Rabbi.
Yeah,
You always think, oh, it's a
Ma-
sort of a gray area.
maybe it's okay.
Yeah, maybe.
But we rationalize.
Yeah,
Shoftim
yeah.
v'shotrim
Certain
titain
circumstances.
lecha, personally, right? And these are our b'chol sha'arecha, Aaron. These are our sha'arim, our personal sha'arim. We have to be a shofet to judge what's right and wrong. But very often, 1024, we know what's right or wrong, but we decide anyhow. You're a lover of languages. Nicht Shabbos gerecht, aber, right? But, right? And then I know I shouldn't say this, but, yeah. We good? One more. Shoftim. Okay. Right? So that is the area where we have our battles. There's an interesting Gemara and a beautiful teaching from Rav Pam on that. The Gemara in Ketuvos speaks about not accepting bribery, and the Gemara tells a story of I think 4 different sages. One of them was walking on a bridge, and someone came along. He's an elder person and supported his elbow as he was crossing the bridge. And he thanked him and he said, "Oh, so why are you, and engaged in conversation? What brings you here?" "Oh, I've got a court case." And this was a rabbi who was a judge. He said, "Well, I'm disqualified from judging for you." "Why?" "Because you helped me across the bridge." Another one, there was a feather on his cap, not a feather in his cap, but a feather on his cap. Someone came and knocked the feather off, and he said, "Thank you very much, but now I can't be your judge." A third instance, a sharecropper, meaning the rabbi owned the field and someone worked the field, and the agreement, the sharecropping is a certain percentage will be brought to him. So he was bringing him that which was his, but he came a day earlier because the day earlier, normally brought on Friday, he came on Thursday because Thursday was din day. So he's bringing him that which belonged to him, but he brought it a day early. I'm disqualified. Why? Why? Because I received bribery. So the question is, as is troubling Aaron over here, right? Are these rabbis so fickle that that such a small thing is going to cause them? Oh, since he took the feather off my shoulder over here, never I'm going to judge in his favor. What are you saying, Esther?
It's the appearance of impropriety.
Okay, good. Okay, so Esther wants to say there's an appearance of impropriety, right?
Also a partiality. If somebody gives you a good smile, you feel good about them.
Okay.
Maybe it'll influence how you feel about them.
Yes, and actually the pasuk says that it will blind you. It will blind you. Even the smallest amount can blind you. But Rav Pam, he has a beautiful idea. He says it's not that they're so fickle. It's that they have such a profound sense of living life with appreciation. Our Shara Bechina, our the gate of examination in our Chovas Halvavos class that we've been studying now, of opening our eyes with appreciation to all that God does, all that's going on all around us. It's not that they're fickle in their judgment. They have such a profound They live with such a profound sense of appreciation that someone has done the slightest thing for me. Wow. Thank you. That's amazing. Right? And therefore, that will tilt this judgment that they will have. Okay, let's jump a little bit, and then if we have enough time, we'll double back. So we hear all about these Psukim, all about the Shoftim that we have, right? We don't hear anything about the Shotrim. about the officers. However, if we jump ahead to page 1038, here we hear about the Shotrim, about the enforcers. Let's hear about these Jewish enforcers. 1038, which is Perek Chaf, chapter 20, Pasuk Aleph. Ki teitzei lamilchama, when you go out in battle. Al oyevecha, against your enemies. V'ra'ita, and you will see sus, v'rechev, horses, chariots, a nation, an army, rav mimcha, more numerous than you. Lo tira mehem, do not be afraid of them. I saw, it's an amazing, I really have to circulate it. Bob Dylan wrote a song a long time ago about the neighborhood bully. Who's the neighborhood bully? So he's talking about, they're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1, but he's the neighborhood bully, right? Talking about Israel amongst the nations, and they do all this, but he's the neighborhood bully, right? And he speaks about there being, that they knocked out the bomb that was soon after the Iraqi reactor was knocked out. That was meant for them, right? But how dare they do that? Because they're the neighborhood bully. It's amazing.
I know Dylan well, but I don't know that song.
I know Dylan fairly well.
Yes, I don't know that song.
I never heard that song.
Interesting.
I will forward it around. Yeah, it's amazing, and the caustic sarcasm, the neighborhood bully who keeps getting beaten, right? But if he raises his hands, the whole world cries out, "What are you doing?" Because he's the neighborhood bully, right? And this Avram Mincha, right? Literally 1,000,000 to 1 is how we're outnumbered by all those Arab nations around. Thankfully, some of them have made peace, some a cold peace, some a warmer peace, and we hope that will continue in that direction. But when you confront this, lo tira mehem, do not be afraid of them. Ki Hashem Elokecha imach, Hashem your God is with you. Hama'alcha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Don't forget, God hasn't changed. The same one who took you out of Egypt, He's with you now. V'haya, and it will be kikaravchem el milchama, when you draw close to the battle. V'nigash haKohen, the Kohen will draw close. V'diber el ha'am, and he'll speak to the people. This Kohen is a very interesting Kohen. This is not the Kohen Gadol. This is called a Meshuach Milchama. The Kohen who was anointed in order to be the one who goes and speaks to us as we go out to battle. And what does he say? V'amar, he'll speak to the nation. V'amar, he'll say to them, Shema Yisrael, listen Israel. Atem krevim hayom lemilchama al oivechem. You're now drawing close to battle against your enemies. And Rashi says the Shema Yisrael, of course, right? We know Shema Yisrael. Why is he invoking that? Even if you only have the merit of having said Shema Yisrael, you're in good position. You're strengthened now. Kedai atem shir, right? That alone is worthy of your victory. And you're going now against your enemies. Know what they want to do to you. Al yirach levavchem. Your heart should not be weak, should not be faint. Al tiro, do not be afraid. Al techbezu, do not panic. The al tartzu, do not be broken before them. Ki Hashem Elokeichem olechem achem. Hashem your God is going with you, lilachem lachem, to fight with you, imoy vechem, with your enemies, lo shia etchem, to bring you your victory, to save you. And of course, when we say every Shabbos, we say the Mishaberach for the soldiers of Israel, the army of Israel, we quote these very psukim. V'dibru hashotrim. Oh, the return of the shotrim. Now come the officers, right? And they're going to say, hey, what do we expect the forces to say? Hey, any problem? We're watching you. Careful. V'dibru Shotrim. The Shotrim will speak to the people saying, Mi ha'ish asher bana bayit chadash. Who here has built a new house? V'lo chanacho. Right? But it's not yet inaugurated. It has not yet moved into it. Yelech, go. Yashov lebeito. Go back to your house. Pen yamut milchama, lest you'll die in battle. V'ish acher yach nechenu. And someone else will break it in. Umia ish nata keren. Who's the person who planted a vineyard? Velo chilalo. And has not yet had his fourth year. The first 3 years we don't eat of the fruits. The fourth year we do. Who has not yet had that fourth year where the fruits, trees in Israel, here we're allowed to eat the fourth year already. But trees in Israel, the fourth year you would redeem it and bring it to Jerusalem. Who is almost there but not quite there yet? Yelech, go. V'yashov leveito, go back to your house. Pen yamut milchama, lest you'll die in battle. V'ish acher, and someone else yichalalenu. Umi ha'ish, verse 7, asher eras isha. Who is a person who has betrothed a woman, meaning the first stage of marriage. They're married, but they're still living apart. V'lo lekacha, but has not yet taken her, is not yet living with her, has not yet had the second stage of marriage. In biblical times, the two stages of marriage that we do back to back at a wedding, they would have them a year apart. Yelech, go. V'yashov leveito, go back to your house. Pen yamut b'milchama, lest he'll die in battle. V'ish acher yikachena. Right? And someone else will take her. V'yasfu shotrim, and the shotrim continue. Real tough guys here, huh? Real enforcers. Lidaber ala'am, to speak to the people. V'amru, and they said, Mi ha'ish hayarei. Who is the person who is afraid? V'rach halevav, faint-hearted. Yelech, go. Yashov leveito, go back home. V'lo yimas et levav echav kilvavo. Otherwise, right, he might melt the heart of his brothers like his heart. Right? Once you have one person who gets scared, that can shift the whole psyche of all of the soldiers. Let him go back home. V'haya, and then it was kichalot hashotrim ledaber ala'am, when the shotrim finished speaking to the nation, upaktu sarei tzvaot, and then they appointed the leaders of the tzava, barosh ha'am, and to that city, all right, at the head of the people. Very, very strange role of these officers, right? However, we have a precedent for these officers. Let's keep the place here. Let's turn back to page 314. The book of Shemot, towards the end of Parshat Shemot. Actually, let's go to 312. Perek Hey, Pasuk Dalet. Moshe came to Paro and said, right, go, right, verse 1. Let's say chapter 5, verse 1. We'll go in English. They came to Pharaoh and said, so said Hashem, the God of Israel, send out my people that may celebrate for me, right, in the Midbar, v'yachoguli ba'midbar, right, this is the other shlachet ami v'yavduni, and they'll serve me, shlachet ami, right, and they will celebrate me in the wilderness, right, the let my people go, right, leaves out the other part. Okay, anyhow, we discussed that before. Paro said, Mi Hashem, who's God? That I should listen to his voice to send the people. I don't know who God is. And Israel, I'm certainly not going to send. right? Then Moshe restated. Well, let me speak your language. The God of the Israel of the Ivrim, of the Hebrews, appeared to us. Let us go 3 days in the midbar and offer to God, lest He will smite us with plague or sword. It didn't help either. A king of Egypt said to him, Lama Moshe Aaron tafriyu et ta'am. Why are Moshe and Aaron, why are they mimasav? Why are they interfering, disturbing the people from their work? L'chu l'sivlotechem, go to your burdens. And then Paro said, right? Behold, the people of the land are now numerous, and you would have them cease from their burdens. And then famously, what does he do? Here we hear Shoftim. Oh, Paro commanded on that day, the Noksim Ba'am, the Et Shotrav. The Noksim are the taskmasters and the officers, saying, Lo Tosifun Latet. Nisim, you're welcome to join us if you'd like. Nisim, you're welcome to join us if you'd like. Okay. Lo tosifun latei tevin la'am. We will no longer give the straw to the nation for their brick building enterprise, as we've done in the past. They will go and gather their own straw. For pasichet, that matkonet alviyim, but the quota, the tally of the bricks that they're doing yesterday before, tasimu aleim, that is still upon them. Lo tigru, we're not going to diminish that. Kinirpim heim, because they are lazy, and therefore they're saying, we want to go serve our God. Tichbad avodal anashim, right? Let's make heavier, increase the load of the work on the people, and let them do that, and they won't be engaged in these words of falsehood. So far, we have the Noksim and the Shotrim hand in hand. We have how they define it over here, the taskmasters, and we're saying the officers. Vayetsu, Pasuk, they went out, these taskmasters and the officers, and they said to the people, this is what Paro said, we're not giving any more straw, go find your own straw, but the quotas remain the same. And Pasuk Yud Bet 12, they spread out over the whole land of Egypt in order to gather straw for this. And the Noksim Atzim Lamor. For the first time now, the Noksim and the Shotrim are split up. The Noksim, the foremen, are pushing them, saying, make sure you fill the quotas each day, as you did when we supplied the straw. Vayuku shotre b'nei Yisroel. The officers of b'nei Yisrael, Vayuku, they were getting beaten. Those who had been appointed by the Noksei Paro, by the officers, the taskmasters of Paro, saying, Ruti, I'm sorry, we started 9 o'clock today. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have something doing at 10 o'clock. My apologies.
Oh,
But join us. We still have another 20 minutes.
okay. Thank you.
Right? They were getting beaten. Why have you not fulfilled the quota of bricks like you had yesterday and the day before? So Rashi explains the Noksim were the Egyptian taskmasters, and the Shotrim, the officers, were Jews who were then in charge of the work details. I don't want to use the term the capos because look what happens over here, right? I don't want to use the term capos because, we'll come back to that in a moment, right? Because they were the ones who were getting beaten, meaning when they saw that the quota was impossible, they didn't beat the Jewish workers saying do more. They took the beating. And probably had they been delivering the beating, they would not have gotten beaten by the Egyptian overseers. But because they were not giving the beating to the Jewish workers for not fulfilling an impossible task, therefore they took the hit. They took the beating. And then what do? They came to Paro, verse 15. Vayitzaku, they cried out to Paro, saying, why are you doing this to your servants? Right? We're your loyal servants. We're working for you. But you're making it impossible for us to do what you want. Meaning this is going against your own objectives. This is futile for you. This is working against what you want. Right? It reminds me of Hitler Yamach diverting trains instead of sending munitions and soldiers to the front. There was a more important job, sending the Jews to the camps. And that brought him down. They said, you're self-defeating over here. But Yom Paro says, nah, you're lazy. That's why you're saying, let us go. So and then they went and they complained to Moshe, right? Understandably so. They complained to Moshe. Moshe then went and complained to God. That's a whole other issue that we have. But these are the Shotrim. So we see the Shotrim are people who understand the plight of the people. So our Shotrim back over here now shouldn't surprise us so much. They understand that a person just might not be up to the task, right? But Rabbi David Foreman points out something very interesting, coming back to 1040 over here. Right? What do they say? You build a house, you haven't lived in there, right? Go back, lest you die in battle, and someone else will get it, right? I mean, if you die in battle, so then there's no house, there's no someone else, there's no vineyard, there's no someone else, there's no wife. There's no someone else. Why is this emphasis being put on, right? Maybe you'll die, right? Oh God, I might die, and then I won't have my brownie tomorrow. I mean, come on, right? Once we're dead, all of this is moot. But this emphasis is being put onto this situation. I mean, no one wants to go to battle and die, but they're all going. Yet we're emphasizing these things. Each of these, yes, Esther.
I would say because you wouldn't give your full effort, maybe as a soldier, because if you go up to the front line, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I have a house, I haven't lived in it yet. You're not going to be really gung-ho about, going
Okay.
out against the enemy.
Okay, so that's interesting, right? Yes, Jenny.
We think when people pass away when they're young, what a tragedy it is, because they haven't lived their life yet. They haven't done what they're supposed to do. So in the same way, if you have your house, you haven't lived in it, or your vineyard, or you haven't lived with your wife. That's maybe a similar idea.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I'm going to fuse those in a moment. It's interesting. By the fourth one, the person who's afraid, there it says, right? Why are we sending him back? It's more of a societal, general concern. His fear is going to spread to others, and then we're right. The whole morale is going to go down. Whereas by the first ones, right? According to what you're saying, Esther, it's almost that's also going to bring down their morale. But we're not saying that. We seem to be more concerned about the person, about that sense of. I'm sorry.
That they were not able to fulfill.
Yes, and someone who was so close, someone who was so close to the finish line, right? We hear about a person passed, a young person never got married, passed away. Oh, it's so sad. We hear about a person who passed away a day before the wedding. Right? We hear a horrific story years ago of a Jewish girl, a Kala, a bride, right, who was killed, right, in a terrorist attack just shortly before her wedding, right? When it's so close, so close, and then that is taken away. That is something that is heart wrenching.
But the vineyard, let me think, there's thousands of people that go about their
Okay,
life, they plant an orchard,
okay,
and 4 years is a long time. So
y-
all
y-
of those people would not
yes, yes,
participate.
right. So Aaron is pointing out, right? So that's the case of a marriage. But when we're getting to the case of a house, maybe a vineyard, right? Right? There are vineyards and there are vineyards, right? We hope to have one spouse, but vineyards and vineyards, right? But it's interesting, right? Because the vineyard is interesting. He's been through the 3 years already, right? So the time that he planted it, and he's tending to it. And grapes have come out, but he hasn't been able to eat those grapes or even get any benefit from those grapes. So he's tasting those grapes already, and now it's being taken away, right? But I agree that to me, I think to all of us, does not have the same resonance as the person who had the first stage of marriage, but has not yet been together. That they have not yet moved in together and completed that second stage of marriage. But it is interesting that there are certain stages of life that we view as being, as you had said, Jenny, significant, right? So important, right? And when you have your own house, right? When you have your own business, your own means of your own means of support, right? And when you have a partner in life, these are all such important stages that the Torah understands that the enforcement over here needs to be go home, go home. Right? God is not going to make the victory dependent upon the participation of those who are so close to reaching this milestone, and they're having to be there and putting themselves in danger of losing it. And Rabbi Foreman says, brings us back, as he so often does, to the Garden of Eden, right? To the very beginning of Bereshit, right? And over there, what does God create? Or we always say that Shabbos and Mishkan go together. The Torah says, don't do any melacha. What is melacha? I don't know. So whenever it speaks about Shabbos, it speaks about Mishkan. So the work that was done to build the Mishkan, those are the 39 melachot that we discuss, the 39 creative activities which we don't do on Shabbos. The connection being, Shabbos is creation. It's our doing, our belief in creation. So creation is God creating a space in his world for us. That's what creation is. And Shabbos acknowledges creation, that God created a space in his world for us. Mishkan is our creating a space in our world for Hashem. As the Medrash said, the king tells his daughter, the princess, as she went off to get married, make a little room for me that I could come and visit. but I can still be there with you. Mishkan is our creating a place for God. Okay, so now let's look at God creating a place for us. How did that work? First, he created a bayit, so to speak, a house, a world for mankind. And where did he place us then? Into the Gan, into the garden, right? So we go from a house to a garden, and then God said, Lo tov heyot adam levado. It's not good for humankind to be alone. Eselo ezer kenegdo. Let me make for him a counterpart. And then we had the marriage. So we sort of had the same steps that God created for us, these milestones that he made for us, a place to live, vineyard, garden, spouse, so too we who are meant to emulate God, we too have these milestones. The Torah appreciates the importance of these milestones the and the frustration and how that will affect a person when we are so close and then it's taken away from us. So the Shotrim enforce. And I saw also just a very interesting thing. An article is written on this idea that a good boss doesn't view the employees as simply cogs in the wheel that keep my whole enterprise moving, but recognize that they are human beings and they have their own life outside of their job, and to be respectful of that, to be sensitized towards that. I'm talking to one of the lawyers in the shul who's already at a point of retirement, but very, very successful. And he was talking to one of the younger lawyers, and he said to him as follows. He said, the most important piece of advice that I can give you is you have your schedule and you book your appointments. The first thing that goes into that book is your kid's game, your kid's this, your wife's this, dinner with the family. That goes into your schedule the same way a client goes in. And that time is taken. And a client wants to see you then, I'm sorry, I have, right, that slot is taken, but I'm available here or there, right? That the person needs to make sure they carve out their own life. And those who are in the managerial positions have to make sure that they respect that. And here we have those who are in the managerial positions: God, the Kohen, the Shotrim, and then you have the Hamon Am, the people, and what's going on in your life. What's on your mind? What's important to you? Right? What is this milestone that you're on the verge of reaching? And you just miss that? And you're afraid of missing that? No, it's okay. Take the day off. Take this battle off. Go home. It is such a powerful teaching and guidance, right, for all that we do. We have just another 5 minutes. Let's double back to page 1028. We started off talking about those who are in power, who are appointing the Shoftim and the Shotrim, right? And over here, again, we heard about those who are in power. So we say over here, yes, page 1028, Perek Yud Zayin. Let's go in English. We have enough time. Starting in verse 14. When you come to the land that Hashem your God gives you and possess it and settle in, you will say, Asima alai melech. I will set a king over myself, like all the nations that are around me. Som tasim. alecha melech. You will set a king over yourself, whom Hashem your God shall choose. From amongst your brethren shall you set a king over yourself. It cannot be a foreign person who's not your brother. Only, however, Rak, lo yarbe lo susim. He shouldn't have too many horses. Because where are the horses coming from? From Egypt. And what's going to happen? He'll bring the people back to Egypt in order to have a lot of horses. And Hashem said, don't go back there. Pasuk Yudzayin v'lo yarbe lo nashim. He should also not have too many wives. Lo yasur levavo. So his heart will not turn astray. The kesef is zahav, nor an abundance of silver and gold. Lo yarbe lo ma'od. He should not have. Vaya, and it will be cheshivto al kisei mamlachto, when he sits on the throne of his kingdom. The katav lo et mishnei haTorah hazot. He has to write for himself a second copy of the Torah. Everyone has the mitzvah to write their own copy of the Torah, but he needs a second one. V'haita imo, and it shall always be with him. V'kara bo kol yemei chayav. He shall read from it all the days of his life. Laman yilmad liyirat Hashem elokav. In order that he'll learn to fear Hashem, his God. Lishmor kol devei Torah azot, to observe, to keep all the words of this Torah, v'tachukim ha'eleh, and these decrees that are to do them. Interesting, the decrees, chok, that we don't know the reason behind them. Livilti rom levavo, lest his heart become raised up, haughty, over his brethren. Livilti surman mitzvah, and this will make sure he will not deviate from the mitzvah right or left, in order that he'll have prolonged the years of his kingdom, he and his sons in the midst of Israel. So the more power a person has, the more the dangers, and the more they need to have that acquiescence, that recognizing that they are beneath the shofet. And famously, we know King Solomon said, right? We know from the story, the Medrash says it explicitly, right? Oh, you shouldn't have a lot of women because it'll cause my heart to turn. Are you kidding me? I'm the composer of Shir HaShirim. I'm the composer of Song of Songs. I'm the one who knows that the true love affair is between Israel and God. Wives, they're going to turn my heart. And of course, that's exactly what ended up happening with Shlomo HaMelech. And that's why perhaps it emphasizes in Pasuk 19, in order he'll keep the chukim, in order that he'll keep the chukim are the statutes, the decrees, the ordinances, those, right? It doesn't apply to me. I don't understand why. It doesn't apply to me. It applies to each and every one of us. He might have thought, Lo yarbe lo nashim. Oh, that's talking about other kings. They've got those. For them, it's a concern. For me, it's not a concern. But we are all human under the aegis of God, and those who are in a position of whatever it might be, the greater the position of power, the greater the obligation, the harder it is, and the more input we need to make sure that this is properly maintained. Okay, my friends. Yes. Okay, my friends, good. We'll call it over here.